I don't know why, but people have been telling me that to react to Star Wars with Warhammer 40k special episode, Our Chains Are Broken, I need a barf bag. Multiple people have said this and are saying it right now, and I'm scared. I don't know what I'm getting into here, and that's a lie. I think I'm getting into something that's going to absolutely scar me for life, and I'm going to regret making. So we're going to jump right into this before I think too heavy about this and decide to do the smart thing and run away screaming. Yeah. You guys know the deal. There's a link below to the original video by a fan with too much time. Hit it up, and let's find out just what is going to happen. Also, Hobbit, thank you for the 2 gifted memberships. Thanks, man. Now, if you don't mind me, I'm just going to go and set the stream up because it's live. I do all these things now where normally I would hide this. I am a little freaked out. And by a little, I mean I'm absolutely massive freaked out, and I don't know how to deal with that because I do not deal with horror well. And anything that would make me want to throw up is kind of terrifying. And fans saying, they're just exaggerating, is not helping because he's a troll. I could easily see him saying that just to make it not that bad. Okay. Whoa. Why is the video looking like that? The output is coming in wide. I'm not uploading it that way. I guess it's just doing that today. I don't know why that is, and I have no idea how to fix that. Well, time to do troubleshooting live. My favorite. Seriously, what is up with that? I streamed in wide format yesterday, but... Is it like that for anyone else? Oh, that's just weird. I mean, I guess I could just... No, it's all locked right now. I don't know why it's doing that. That makes literally no sense. Josh, how do I take 50 minutes to get coffee? It's very good coffee. Also, stopping to say hi to my wife and pet the kitties and getting distracted by the kitties and getting even more distracted by the kitties. And you see where I'm going with this. It's YouTube end issues. Ripoff, that is most likely because I'm not uploading in that frame. Wait. No, I might know what you might actually see my mouse moving on the screen. I actually have something else up there right now. God, Hobbit, you said I was sponsored by WAD. Welcome to the WAD Airier channel. As jokey as this sounds, I'm actually appreciative of this me not being screwed around with problem. Can we all just agree that this is terrifying? I don't know what I'm getting into here. And I mean that both in how I'm trying to fix whatever's going on here, and I probably need to stop the stream briefly to start it up again. I'm going to try something. I will need to turn the stream off for a second, not kill it. So, momento. This is a very stupid idea. I will make sure to cut this out, but it means I need to do something shocking, something horrifying, something I've never done before. Play around with settings. Yeah, this is all going to cut out. I'll edit it out after the video and see if it gets saved. And I'm not doing this right now live because I'm trying to distract myself from the video that I was told that I need to maybe, why did it just flip? That is weird. Okay. Weird. I'm playing around with things beyond my mortal ken. That's good enough. Not even sure if it actually lines up all the way. Yeah, we're doing it this way. Oh, yeah. I have literally no idea how this is going to work. But, hey, sure, why not? When in doubt, go wide. Intentionally wide. Apparently, I'm shooting the video like this now. I have no idea if it's supposed to look this way, but at least this way it's not widened out. I shot a video in this format yesterday. Apparently, it can't adjust. Also, I just realized that means I have used up my excuse to not do the video, and now I have to watch the thing that people were telling me I need a barf bag for. If it sounds like I'm harping on that, it's because I am actually terrified right now. I believe that people watching my videos enjoy when I'm in pain. Mostly because people told me they enjoy it when I'm in pain. And John Black said, let's go, trauma! Oh, lovely. I feel vindicated. I don't want to be vindicated. I would like a nice case of being wrong, thank you. This will all be cut out later. I don't know why it was like that, and I apparently am just going to have to get used to it. And maybe find a camera lens that's wide. Ugh. And Fan just says I need a therapist for this video. $50 Shades of Wide indeed. And Hobbit gifted 5 memberships. Thank you for my suffering, Hobbit. I mean, you're not actually the one making me suffer. Fan is. Moving on. Palpatine's Teachings by John Williams? Oh, the audio that's going to get claimed. Got it. Star Wars 40K special cut content from Our Chains Are Broken. Okay. And Xeon gifted 5 memberships too. Thank you both.
Corbin.
Oh, started here. Also, Zeno, Hobbit, you guys, thank you so much for the gifted memberships. It actually does make a huge help. And the fan said, I was a camp counselor once. I'm sure there ain't no mind issue I can't handle. Oh my god. You know, actually, considering the previous video where you went live with the face cam and you were really having fun, hamming up every second, I could see you telling scary stories to camp counts or like camp kids around a campfire. Yeah, I can see it. Okay,
Corbin
here we go.
yawned, and Leandry, whose gaze was drawn by the noise, seemed to
Creepy
blanch
music.
and look about nervously.
Okay.
Corbin had found that rather amusing during his first few days of working with the young man, but even he had to admit that the other guard's sensitivity was quickly transforming into a bothersome trait. Would you stop glancing around like Wyler's gonna come out of the walls?
Oh, wait, it's content specifically for Wyler. Is this before or after the clones watched his guards getting massacred?
Give it a rest, the man said, voice gruff and tired. But Corbin, you heard what the Inquisitor said about yawning while on duty, said his pale, clean-faced counterpart, tightly clutching and raising his melting gun.
I don't think that's a joke.
Corbin snapped out an armor-encased hand, grabbing Leandry's gun and pulling it back down so that the barrel pointed straight ahead. This time, Corbin was the one that grimaced, though he didn't bother looking around to see if the Inquisitor was about to walk in. And you know what he does to anyone who aims these things where they ought not be aimed.
Smart
Corbin
move, actually.
Shot back, his own melting gun still aimed firmly forward. Leandry...
Wait, he actively aims it forward. Oh. Sorry, usually I'm used to gun discipline being you point it at the ground, so if you fuck up, the ground gets injured. But if you're actively aiming forward, that means you're in a position where it should be aimed at anyone. So friendly fire is expected.
Blushed and nodded, gripping his weapon tighter and orienting it on the prisoner. Corbin sighed and shook his head.
Okay, they're in the jail?
I've been serving under the Wylers for 60 years, boy.
Wylers? Was that just a accent or
and shook his head. I've been serving under the Wilders for
plural?
60 years, boy.
76.
Worst thing Tar'll do to me is make me guard the throne-damned Shadow Pirate for another rotation.
It's another one of the jail cells. One Anakin probably broke because it's the prison ship. Oh, lovely. Also, Xenodragon. Wait, mind in this community? No, there couldn't be. We are not smart for having a mind. I have no idea what your context is, Xenodragon, but I would never agree anyone has a mind. I make a point never to use mine.
And I'm used to that damn devil already, so I'll yawn when I damn well please.
He's going to get fed to someone, isn't he?
The Shadow Pirate? The one we don't include in the block purges? Leandry asked.
They keep
Corbin
this one
nodded
alive.
his head, the chin guard on his helmet clacking against the ceramite
What
of his
would
chest
Weiler
plate.
consider
His
worth
face
keeping alive but
scrunched in
having
discomfort
active
at the
in
memory.
room
We ain't got
guard
any
on?
others on board, do we? The man asked sarcastically.
Shadow
No,
pirate.
I guess not. But what makes that a punishment?
Shadow pirate, shadow pirate. I mean, it sounds like a Corsair, so we do have an Eldar then?
I mean, compared to guarding the Heresiart, the younger
what?
man began to say. Ah, guarding this brick is as easy as it comes, said Gorbin. His
Oh, he
scoff
dies.
making
He's
the other
definitely
guard jump
dead.
a bit and then stare forward at their prisoner's constraints. Compared to the pirate, this is a fecking vacation. Only thing I don't like about this rotation is how dull it gets. And how much my arms hurt after aiming this damned gun for a few hours. Besides, this brick on a stick won't last. Any minute now, Weiler will confirm the block purge, and that will be that. There was a silence then. Silence
But
Corbin
Weiler's
relished
busy,
as
so
he
they're not gonna
stared into
purge
the
this
empty
block.
eyes of the sarcophagus that held the arch-heretic, bored as a plank in an unused room.
They what? With the what? Sarcophagus that held the arch heretic. That is okay, so it's not an Eldar. An Eldar would not be a heretic. They'd be a Xenos. Arch heretic. They didn't even have active monitoring in the room for Kaon? No, that was a different character. No, it was Kaon. What does this person get for actual restraints beyond just psychic?
That held the arch-heretic, bored as a plank in an unused room, and thankful for it. The
Who are we getting
massive
into?
cylinder before him looked almost like an enormous thermos, with a skeletal face on the cap. And within the nearly 2 feet of armored bulk within was
Fan.
the psyker they were guarding. Had been guarding for almost 2 months.
And Anakin killed off the psychers, or the nulls. So this guy's about to get free. What does it mean that this guy has more security on him than the Jesus child, definitely not an OC, don't steal character that is currently with Anakin?
Hey, Gorbin, said Leandry. Was the older man's tired response. What makes the Shadow Pirate such a bad rotation? I've never been in with it before, the younger man asked. The old blank sighed heavily.
Oh, they're
Just
blank
the
guard
memories
members,
of
okay.
those moments acting like a soft, barbed
Okay,
wire
that makes more
over the
sense
lens
then.
of his mind's eye.
Wait, they didn't even have
Damn
blanks in
thing
the
has a
room then.
drill for a tongue. Buzz your ear off the entire time. Even with the mask, thrown damned thing can still get into your head if you stay with it long enough. Yap, 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 and then suddenly it's trying to tell you things about yourself.
In other words, it just talks a lot, but it's good at it. So the pirate's probably psychic.
Things you either know are true or don't want to be true. It's probably the reason why Weiler never puts you on that rotation. The guard said. What do you mean? Asked Leandry, straightening somewhat and stiffening his face.
That looks true, Kari.
Gorbin rolled his eyes.
So it's that kind of pirate.
He knew his kind had a way of getting under other people's skin, and he also knew that out of the 8 men he shared this rotation with, Leandry was the most potent blank by far.
Oh.
Gorbin could give men headaches with a handshake, could cause mild discomfort for people within the same room as him without even talking. Leandry could cause women to miscarriage with a slap, and
Okay, one, that is an incredibly specific usage there, and this guy sounds brutish enough that that's probably something he's tried to aspire to.
could make an entire ballroom of blunts feel cold and sick. The Inquisitor
This guy is the null to other nulls. Damn.
himself could barely stand to be near him for any time at all. And yet, Gorbin still felt that more than half of Leandry's off-putting nature had to come from how irritating he was in general. There was nothing quite as wasteful and annoying as a man with too much to prove. The bearded man sighed again, even more heavily and pointedly. Look, kid, you're what, 28? The man asked.
I mean, guess for the Imperium, that's young.
Leandry
Unless
blushed
you're in the
and
guard.
nodded his head quickly in a way that made Gorbin's eyes roll. He was almost certainly younger than that. You ain't proved enough to yourself yet. Unlike you, I wasn't born in a place like this. I came from the underhive of Picanus Secundus.
Because Weiler has breeding programs for the blanks to make sure that he keeps them going. Yeah. Xenodragon, was I supposed to read a curse book this week? Yes. Yes, I was. I took executive action and forgot. And then when I remembered, I made sure to forget intentionally this time.
And I'd lived a fair bit of my life before I ever, signed on with the Weilers.
So
You've
it's a
barely
family,
seen
not just
outside of
one.
this ship. Barely done anything with yourself at all.
He's
Patience,
lived on this
lad.
ship.
You'll be tested and tried eventually. And when you finally have some proper life under your belt, then I'm sure you'll get assigned to all the worst details, just like me. Gorbin said with obvious false joy. His fellow guard beamed at the thought, and Gorbin groaned internally, barely keeping himself from cringing. It seemed more and more that Weiler didn't breed them tough or smart, but he did apparently ensure that every one of the misbegotten blank children that fell into his care were brought up loyal, if not inanely stupid. Oh, do you feel
So,
that?
standard
I think
Imperium.
the Inquisitor is back. Leandry said suddenly,
Feel?
excitement entering his voice.
Because they probably just noticed the lack of the blanks as an intensity. So, one, I didn't know you could do that. Two, I bit my tongue. This is probably right when Anakin and Kaon blenderized the blanks underneath the cell.
Right.
Which
it's
means
about
things are going to
time.
get happening now.
The older blank sighed out, straightening and tightening his grip on his...
And if that field is going down, that's multiple blanks putting out the fuck you psyker aura. Fan intentionally made this guy a very powerful blank to even other blanks, a null that would, well, have the effect on other nulls that they would normally have on regular people or psychers. Because whoever is in this, water bottle of doom is being built up as an even bigger monster with so much psychic power that they can probably get through this guy without the X-sides or the outside help.
His melt-a-gun while glancing to the left towards the
Who
door that
is
led
in
into
the
the
cell?
Try not to embarrass me this time. Whoa, boy, your nose! Gorbin suddenly blurted as the edge of his eye caught the sight of Leandry's face. The younger blank had a stream of red blood rolling down
Someone's
from
about
one
to
of his
pop.
nostrils, deep crimson sliding across pale, hairless skin and trembling lips. Boy,
Okay.
Leandry, the hell's wrong with you? He
I
began
think
to
he's-
say
yeah, he's
before
about to
suddenly he felt it too.
Yep.
Powerful pressure. At first, he recognized the sensation. The Weilers were psychers, and Tar was the strongest of them all, ranking
it's
it in an
multiple-
absurdly
How
high
many?
psi rating. He was one of the few natural psychers Gorbin had ever met who had the power to push back on the blank aura that he and the others like him emitted.
How strong is Weiler? Because if he's strong enough to do that, he's probably... Oh, God. There are levels to Psychers in 40k. The best to sum it up as normal, fodder for the God Emperor, another fodder for the God Emperor, another fodder for the God Emperor, mildly useful for the Imperial Guard as fodder for the army, mildly useful to maybe a low-level Inquisitor, mildly useful to a high-level Inquisitor, Space Marine, and finally, oh God, kill it now. And above that is the God Emperor, who is, oh God, and we just leave it at that. Why do I have a feeling we're at the oh God, kill it now stage, and Wyler didn't kill it now?
But it rapidly climbed beyond anything he had been subjected to before, and soon it became obvious to the older blank that this was not the approaching presence of their powerful employer. A second stream of red blood began to run down from Leandry's other nostril. The young man's whitening face stark against the color, his breath shuddering, gasping in controlled spurts, as though he were being constricted, even choked by something invisible. Gorbin's gun began to shake, but he did not veer it away from the prisoner, though he was now looking
firing,
over
maybe?
at Leandry completely. Snap out of it, boy! You're a bigger blank than I am! What's happening to you? Is it the Heresiarch? Is he doing it? He bellowed.
Start firing. Firing is a good option.
Lip and reached up with his gauntleted hand, touching just under his nose and drawing away red-coated digits. Fear and adrenaline pumped into Gorbin's body like venom from a snake bite, and he turned a furious face forward, glaring at the grinning skull face of the ceramite sarcophagus. Ain't getting me, you throne-damned heretic! He roared, squeezing the trigger
he actually
of his
is firing.
knuckle gun and firing a discharge of draconic starfire. The powerful fusion reaction of his weapon pouring over the encasement which held the high criminal.
And
it briefly began to glow red before beginning to liquefy. Thermite peeling and flaking away as the metal components simply melted.
one, they're not supposed to just melt, are they? They're supposed to be blown apart. So did Wyler build the cage too strong and is protecting the source inside? Or is psychic shenanigans... Never mind, we already know psychic shenanigans. I cannot speak today. Psychic shenanigans. I just can't say the words. This is probably one of those fuck it, burn the room, and maybe we'll be lucky and die fast options.
Spilling like silver
What did
guts
Wyler
and
make mistake of
spattering
not
onto the
killing?
foot of the cell in a spreading molten slick. But
Yeah.
even then, the seasoned blank could tell that something
Keep
was
firing.
off. The flames splayed oddly, fountaining away into either side of the melting prison, the
Something's
normally
taking
even
advantage.
streams of screaming fusion reactions fanning out like the wings of some forlorn star-birthed phoenix. Gorbin was transfixed by the effect, gawking at the
What did you
impossibility
do?
of it. Nothing, not a single thing in his entire long life had managed to have this kind of effect on his melt-a-gun. Nothing could split starfire like that. Nothing could defy the ruthless
Space
death he
magic.
had grown so accustomed to wielding. But truth was
Psychic
ruthless itself,
shenanigans.
and it callously denied his experience, revealing that, for all those times previous, Gorbin had been shielded.
Josh, am I surprised that melt-a-gun melts things? Not so much I'm surprised it melts things, more it spread the heat out enough to only melt things, because it sounds like the only is the important part there.
Altered from what now emerged before him, just as impossible as any effect that might occur to his stream of fire, and yet just as present, just as real.
This is where you keep firing and hope
His
they
bubble
fail to
of
save.
anti-psyker aura was being pushed back, compressed against him, a single flickering spot of absolute cold attempting to resist the maelstrom of an unseen explosion of power. Where before, the spread of his blank nature would have enforced the cold laws of reality, now he watched in belligerent disbelief as that Aegis was defied and ravaged. Pain growing,
And what did you
spreading across
do?
his brain and spine as though a crushing pressure were being pushed into his bones directly. The force of it was so great, so distracting, they had nearly cooked his hands entirely by the time he realized his weapon was too hot to keep hold of.
You probably should keep
The
firing.
blank screamed as he dropped the weapon, hands opening, smoking through his gauntlets, fingers twitching at the blind ruination he had forced onto them. But the searing pain in his palms was soon dwarfed by the growing tension that constricted his body and mind, like the unseen coils of some merciless serpent.
What is going on? Because I think, at least Hobbit's saying this is Anakin, but honestly, I'm more worried that it's whatever's in the cocoon. Because Anakin was very much focusing on something and just releasing power. And I'm sure he could push it back. But pushing it back would not stop the case from only melting around whatever was inside it.
Squeezing his very soul. What was it? What was it? In an attempt to answer his own internal question, his eyes swept around, his vision dyed red as crimson tears squeezed unwilling from his tear ducts. He saw Lindri then, the younger, more potent blank having fallen onto his back, convulsing and seizing against the wall, blood practically spurting from his nose and eyes, his mouth open in a horrifically silent scream. Finally, that scream found its voice, filling the room with a terrible sound of an agonized death. As Lindri finally succumbed to the assailing force, his voice screeching into a higher and higher pitch until, at last, his entire head burst like a squeezed grape, showering Gorbin.
Why'd you have to say the grape part? Oh, God.
Gorbin himself knew that he was not far behind, his being stretched and pulled taut like a ship's.
See, here's the thing. I'm not actually that nauseous right now, but I had a meal before starting this, so I was nice and pleasantly full. Waffles. It was nice. I would like to not taste them again. Thank you very much.
Windsail attempting to hold fast in the face of a hurricane. Lindri's entire mast in this metaphor had been torn away, but for Gorbin, something different and rare occurred.
What?
Gorbin's mast, his body, held strong enough so that it was Gorbin's sail itself which tore apart. That anti-psyker film which had sublimated deadness and stillness into his very soul, controlled and dictated his entire life.
So we're basically getting a case of his anti-psyker nature is being destroyed. Oh. And Hobby, you think this? You said this is Anakin tearing apart the blank, or the blank veil. It sounds like it, but considering when they fired on whoever's in the case, it melted the case itself, but whatever was inside, it seems to be around still. It's the only reason I would think it's more than just Anakin, or maybe it's something taking advantage of Anakin.
The moment it did, he was freed from the pressure, the unmasterable psychic veil speeding past him like a hot breeze, allowing him to drop to his knees, shoulders sagging, heaving as he panted. Gorbin's bloody eyes blinked, his red tears added to by the stream coming from his nose and mouth. The combination of fluids dripping from his chin as he sagged against the sudden weakness and euphoria which were flooding his body and mind.
This is happening. Wait, fan, are you saying that before in Warhammer canon, blanks could be unblanked? I was unaware of that. Oh, neat. And also terrifying.
Knew he must have gone insane as rasping chuckles began to blurt and bubble from his lips. But the former blank could not help himself. Suddenly alleviated of his own depressive aura. Life, specifically his life, had been pain. And he had...
So they experience their own pain, but they're used to it. Also, I would love to know what part of canon showed blanks as something that could be changed, because that has a lot of implications about it being not natural.
Had never even known it until now. Never had another state of being to compare it to. But now that he was free, emotions of color, of vibrancy, of ecstasy flowed through him like a hit of crystal airsats, lighting him up, making him feel warmth without heat, happiness without reason. Even the sight of the other dead blank, headless and splayed across the ground in a gore-slicked ruin, could not dampen the sudden manic rush that Gorbin was now feeling. However, the sound of the voice which suddenly appeared within his head did succeed in chilling his blood to an atrocious calm. Special. You are special.
This is probably one of those times where you should take the gun and just put it to yourself.
Rasped the alien sound within his mind.
No.
He felt a cold sweat breaking over his body as he tried to stand, but his limbs felt limp, lacking all coordination, and he could do little better than flop back from his knees, his back striking the wall behind him as he pulled his bleeding eyes forward. The voice had come from within him, but he still knew where to look. Across from him, still adhered to the wall by chains which clung to the rear, untouched portions of the previously sealed sarcophagus, was the being known as the Heresiarch of Sikaris.
That sounds like a title, and they already talked Heresiarch of Sikaris. Heresiarch of Sikaris. I don't know why, but Sikaris sounds familiar, but Heresiarch sounds snakish. Or it could just be a Dark Eldar thing because it sounds needlessly sharp wording.
It was a featureless mannequin of flesh,
held
held entirely nude as it hung limply from its iron and barbed constraints, nearly clothed by virtue of the raw amount of shackles which held it. The creature was sexless, yet vaguely masculine, its only visible orifices being those which formed under its nostrils, with all else, including its eyes and mouth, coated in a smooth layer of unbroken skin.
Ugh. So we have a face stealer. Oh, God.
The doomed thing was hairless, its skin unmarred by scar, bruise, ink, or burn, though it did seem emaciated and frail, its arms stick-thin, its chest almost concave save where its gently rising and falling ribs pushed back against its white skin. Just right. Just right.
Start firing your gun. Maybe it'll explode and you'll be lucky.
So special. Creaked its psychic voice, and Gorbin shook his head, numb hands fumbling for his meltagun, unworried as to what damage he would do to his hands if he took it up again. His fingers brushed the hot grip, only for the gun to spin away across the room as though he had kicked it.
Psycher.
He tried to withdraw his hand, but found it frozen, locked on its reaching posture by a growing conflict swelling within his will, his very soul. It had not been seconds since the moment he was freed from his previous condition, the doors of his spirit unbarred, and already something had slithered within. He grit iron-tasting teeth, groaning as he tried to pull his hand away, but instead it reached down, steadying him as he lost control of his legs and then spine. His possessed arm pushed off the floor, and his legs stood without his permission, lifting him from the ground.
Yep, and he's not even possessed yet. He's just being mind-controlled, or I guess in this case, body-controlled, because the mind is still there to see the horror.
No, I won't serve.
Gorbin
pushed past ruddy lips, his breath, his words, acting as a desperate prayer, and not merely a declaration of his intent, as his body was piloted by the maligned psyker, stepping closer and closer until the former blank was fully within the reach of the slumped, featureless form of the heretic. Hush. You serve the God Emperor of mankind. Yes.
God.
He is.
I just want to say right now, fan, I have no idea how you managed to pull this voice off, because I'm just trying to think about all this. It sounds like you're trying to legitimately destroy your own vocal cords. And you're even saying hissing sounds in the chat. Yeah. I'm also surprised you would write a character with this voice because of how you'd have to then voice it.
Your lord, yes. The voice asked him, All the while, Gorbin's body continued to act against his desires,
What is
moving
this
jerkily, but with an uncanny coordination as he reached down and began to unbuckle the gauntlet on his right forearm, wincing as his hands acted callously, ignoring the burns which coated his palms and fingers. Soon, his hand was free and bare to the air,
What's he
stinging and
doing?
aching deeply, especially now that he could see the burnished flesh and the damage his earlier Melta discharge had done to him. I live to serve him, the guard babbled, true tears joining the bloody ones in his eyes, stinging as
heretic.
salt mingled with blood.
What?
Good.
Why is it saying good?
I am the same,
What?
said the horrible voice. Really? You believe in the Emperor? Said the desperate.
Kubik, I hate everything about the image you're using. I just want you to know, I hate this. Make it worse. This is creepy. Oh God. Why does this thing say he's serving the God Emperor?
Defeated man as he raised his now bare
Heretic.
palm and reached for the mannequin of flesh before him, pressing his palm against the heretic's pale skin. Yes, I serve them all, each and every god, every true god.
And he serves both the God Emperor because they could have been... When did this come out? A year ago. That's roughly when the revelation... Was it this year or last year that the Dark King was revealed as what could have been the future for the God Emperor? And he dodged by becoming the Corpse Emperor instead. And if it's every true one, he would also serve some of the lower minor ones. And technically also the Eldari gods. Well, it depends what it calls true then. But it considers the God Emperor of mankind that way. Ugh.
What else could be asked of the first follower of the tenfold path? The voice asked.
I actually don't know what
Gorbin
tenfold
did
path
not
is.
understand. However, he did feel a great
I don't
deal.
actually remember that.
His palm hurt terribly as he pressed it against the cold skin of the man before him, his own burned and tanned skin now flush against its chest. And then he felt a different something, an odd something. It was difficult for him to describe the sensations as his flesh quivered and merged with that of the creature before him.
Oh joy, we're getting a flesh that hates moment.
He watched, eyes bulging in his skull as his skin melted into the flesh of the heretic, watching the patches of burnt skin moving off of his own palm and hand, and splaying out across the chest of the heresiarch like maligned markings of heretical intent. He tried to pull away as hard as he could, but his body had been reduced to a mere puppet, a marionette, his strings masterfully manipulated by an old,
It's feeding
skilled
flesh.
hand. A hand which had been rejected by the highest of the high heretics.
A heretic rejected by heretics. I honestly would love to get a Chaos interlude where they're like, oh yeah, it worships us, but also still worships the God Emperor. Ew.
A hand which belonged to one reviled by all, and yet appealing to only the greatest powers. The five-fingered hand of the tenfold path.
Don't know what the tenfold
But
path is.
that creature took
Don't
much
know
more
that.
than burnt skin into its limp, nearly
maybe I
inert
forgot.
body. Gorbin coughed and choked, sinew and vein flowing beneath the skin, reinforcing the weakened meat and bone of the arch-heretic, transfusing it with vital blood and substance like a profound leech, having reached the pinnacle of its evolution. Gorbin could feel his insides being churned and drained, vitamins being removed, organs being torn and reused. All of it entering and being exchanged from the ruined flesh within the criminal which was controlling him. It felt almost like dying, and yet the former Blank could feel that he was not dead, nor coming even close to the edge of oblivion.
So it's not just the flesh being eaten then, the body is also incorporating the soul into whoever this thing is. Oh, lovely.
The thing before him was not merely stealing from him, it was stealing him himself, taking from him and yet allowing Gorbin to remain, not merely within the ruined body it was slowly exchanging, but enabling him to exist within the stolen flesh itself. He could feel himself, his blood, his nerves, even his bones, driving up, exchanging and moving themselves particle by particle, until they were within the creature's body, within his form, now commingled in a way that was beyond violating. Gorbin whimpered a wordless plea for mercy, for a cessation of the horrific transplant, but the voice in his clouding mind only tutted. I am not destroying you, Gorbin. It said in his own voice, even their gray matter beginning to mingle, one mind fusing into the other. I am saving us both, said the voice that would become him, his eyes still wide as they drifted off of his face, streaming down his chin, over his chest and arm, and into the new, bound body. Its limbs thickened with muscle and fat, teeth filling the widening maw of its contorting face.
What the fuck, man?
Eyes blinking open within the previously blank, smooth skin of the damned entity they had attempted to imprison. And more matter, from organs to spirit stuff.
So he's taking literally everything. He's just incorporating it. And how much is he subsuming the other mind? Or is Gorbin just going to get to sit back and enjoy it?
Drifted between them, making the reduced arch-heretic whole again, until at last, all that stood in Gorbin's clothes was a faceless, soulless mannequin. And behind Gorbin's old eye...
So yeah, it's a flat-out face stealer. Yeah, I'm with Volmers on this one. Thanks, fan. I hate it.
His screaming soul joined the cacophony of the others this biomancer had taken within the breadth of his long life, most now entirely enslaved to his original will. The living, lifeless thing that had once been Gorbin's body shuddered, eyeless, thin and withering, even before the connection between it and the chest of the heretic was severed, the new mannequin slumping backwards and down onto its knees, leaving a man who looked suspiciously like Gorbin hanging upon the half-destroyed, molten sarcophagus. Gently, gradually, the fingers on this new man twitched and then wiggled, Gorbin's pale tan eyes suddenly coloring in with an alien violet. His
fan, did you just have to say, oh, but I've barely begun in the chat? Because right now I'm just going this like, oh, lovely. We're getting body horror. I haven't had enough of that lately. Someone has freaking bone saw.
His facial structure altering, cheekbones rising, face stretching until he looked entirely new and different. The only aspect of his appearance which remained fixed being his new brown hair. With great care, he began to slide his body around even more, always moving within his own skin as he began to patiently slip the restraints which held him. Limbs fattening in places and thinning in others to create the leverage he would need to slip free. Clank, clank, clank. He addressed every shackle with personal care, shedding them one by one until at last his newly revitalized body lowered itself to the ground, bare, printless toes sliding across the cold, polished stone floor. He cocked his head to the right, eliciting a small torrent of crackling pops from his vertebrae, and then swung his hips to the left, producing a similar effect from his spine and other joints.
Oh, I'm so glad.
He
I am legitimately glad he didn't add the special effect here to add the little crackling pop sound, because I would have lost it if that happened, man. There are lines, and that would be my line, and I don't think I can do that. That would just be too much. Oh, God.
raised his arms up into the air, stretching and popping dramatically as he spread the limbs out like featherless wings. He then crossed them over his chest, forming a twisted rendition of the Aquila by interlocking his thumbs.
Lovely.
Though his rendition also splayed his fingers, creating less of a bird shape between his digits and more something resembling a 10-spoked wheel.
10. Does that... I know the regular Chaos Star is 8 points. What are the extra 2 meaning? Oh, they probably worship other gods, including the god Emperor. Oh,
the forming
lovely.
of the gesture across his chest made his lips tug back across his teeth in a widening, stretched grin. A grin which was so tight and spread that it nearly seemed his skin would split as his head tilted up to smile.
I'm assuming he
could
could smile as wide as he wants.
The heresiarch of Sikaris, the most reviled and hunted heretic of the modern times of the Eye, was free at last. He stepped forward.
This is why when you catch them, you kill them!
Scraping the smooth, cold flooring in an odd, irregular shuffle until he was standing much nearer to the ruin that had once been the blank known as Lindri.
If he's
Sparing
lucky.
the dead blank no consideration, he reached down
Okay,
and
it's a good thing
carefully
he's dead.
stripped the headless body, ignoring his unused melt-a-gun. The heretic instead took the former guard's black pants and cream-colored undershirt specifically. He slid
It just
them
has
on,
a little blood and
growing
brain
a
on
little
it. Who needs
taller and
that?
lankier to fit perfectly within the pilfered clothing, grinning at the gods all the while. Then, as if to herald his return, the doors beside him hissed and split open, another guard running inside almost directly into him. The man
More
was
mass.
speaking before he even fully entered the room, for which the heresiarch was grateful. Hey, are you two still alive? Blockpurge has been... He got no further, his eyes widening as the tall form of the heresiarch was registered into his brain.
Yep.
The man
You're
was
screwed.
a blunt, not a blank, and though his reflexes were honed to a professional edge, the heretic before him moved on the speed of prophecy, affording his victim no chance to react with anything more pronounced than a spike
And
of fear
course he can
before their
do
brief
prophecy to see
contest
what's
was
gonna happen.
over. The heresiarch's long-fingered hand snapped out, smoothly sliding into the speaking man's open mouth and grasping his tongue tightly. With a flick of his index finger, the arch-heretic used his sharpened fingernail to cut a shallow circle and design into the wet flesh he now gripped, his tremendous psychic might flowing in behind it.
What?
It all
How did
happened
he
so
cut?
fast, the man did not even have time to breathe out before it was done. His last exhalation manifesting as a distorting scream of mortal peril as the heresiarch pulled out his tongue, his teeth, his throat, stomach, and bones, along with all his pink, worming innards through the blunt's mouth. The unlucky guard did not die, however, as he was elongated and remade, coming a gory, bony whip of moaning sinew and shuddering organs.
Oh, he made himself a
which
weapon.
Connected to the wrist of its new master, coiling there as it continued to warp and alter into a weapon of punitive design.
You know, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I think I made the mistake of not recording that reading of 50 Shades of Grey today. Okay. Ugh. Ugh. Yeah, Namu, Mahito vibes, except Mahito was just so jokey. This one is just more detailed because it lets you imagine how horrific it is, despite the image.
He did not take this one's soul, nor did he spare him his suffering. Left standing in the blunt guard's place, if only briefly, was the hollow, boneless husk of the man's now repurposed body. Literally left as little more than skin, cartilage, hair, and the armor and clothes which enwreathed them. The monster's right hand now occupied by the slithering wet mass of his new living whip. The heretic reached out with his left hand, grabbing and crumpling the hollow face of the still standing husk between his fingers, before releasing its form from his psychic stilts, allowing it to finally attempt to collapse. Gravity reasserted itself over what had previously been the guard's body. Protective uniform now falling to the ground as the arch-heretic callously shook the perfectly preserved human skin that had been left in the wake of his attack, doing so until all that remained was the husk and nothing more. Then, filling it with his power once again, he pulled the skin back and spun it around his shoulders, the flesh opening and remodeling its shape to fit his design. The door sought to close, but his now free left hand reached out and paused it, grasping its edge. The DNA scanners mounted into the frame of the device went off right away. Green bars of deciphering light quickly sliding over the heretic's exiting body, prepared to slam shut and crush him into two halves the instant it detected his departure. But those scanners did not find him. Instead, reading and identifying the still living skin of Corporal Lachasse and allowing him to pass unbothered.
And that's what it
so
keeps
it
there.
was that the Heresiarch exited the cell, bare feet and toes splaying over the ground he stepped on.
I need to legitimately ask, could they ever just have like a panic button where if your pulse ever drops to 0, you die? Because it seems like that would have been a really good thing. And by die, I mean set off bomb in room. Like maybe a small little void bomb. That would be safer. Granted, Wyler probably wouldn't want to kill his prey or his plaything, so that makes sense. It really shouldn't, but it probably does. I don't even hate this. I hate this so much. Oh, God.
Wearing a high-collared cloak of dark, freshly harvested human skin, which trailed behind him in an unnatural, unfelt wind. The forlorn
he has
of
dramatics.
Lorgar, the heretic among heretics, the first prophet of the tenfold path, had at last reached the lands of prophecy. And the great power which had freed him, the blinding light of the ever-chosen, had not gone unnoticed or unseen.
One of the few times you could say, go to chaos, it's safer. And this guy already has more because he has his own prophecy that he's going to be having fun with the ever-chosen
Nor
Anakin.
was he the only one within this place to have benefited from its intervention.
What?
A fact which was made plain the
Kaon or
instant
someone
he
else?
exited his confinement and entered the prison hallway.
How many others got
Gunfire,
out?
screams, and the sounds of things that were both less and far more than human rang like dirges through the cramped and darkened spaces of the Weiler prison.
Yeah, honestly, if Kaon doesn't blow this ship up, it's probably going to be a problem.
It was like sweet holiday music, nostalgic and well-omened, particularly for a creature such as he. The sound of clanking footsteps turned his head to the left, just in time to see a squad of additional guards, all similar to the man who had become his whip. Just as they rounded a bend and came into sight of him, he smiled at them, the weapon in his hand quivering with sudden, violent anticipation. The dance began as they opened fire, gory sinews snapping even faster than the booming expulsions of the shotguns they used against him. The man, dressed in human flesh, cavorted on psychic streams so strange, he did not merely seem to dodge the shots sent for him, but to impossibly flicker around them.
So he's using psychic movement. Lovely. He's a good villain, I'll give him that. But also, when you get into levels of body horror, man, it's terrifying.
Moving to the right and to the left, back and forth, laughing and laughing as his weapon whipped to and fro.
How many more weapons does he get?
Heads were clipped from shoulders, eyes filled with gouging bones, brains and stomachs and spleens punctured in spite of ceramite protection. And through it all, the arch-heretic was in ecstasy. Not one of the doomed guards ran for their lives. Not one was unprepared to give everything in their attempt to contain him. Wonderful! He sang to them as they danced and died. You are all so wonderful! Such faith! Such duty! Oh gods, how it fills me!
This is probably one of the most fucked up things I can imagine, and if this is something Fan didn't just make up himself, I'll be very surprised, because this is a level of fuck-uppery that would make Fabius Bill look at this and go, I should take notes.
The man crowed through a throat which had spoken
Let me rephrase that. Fabulous Bill. My apologies.
in screams for months. Duty is a lie we realize only through passion, said the Psyker, snapping his whip through the eye of a blunt and impaling the thigh of another. Through passion, we wage our wars! He continued, yanking back, the whip growing hooked spars and barbs, anchoring itself into the leg of the screaming, struck soldier, ripping his entire body up off his feet and through the bursting skull of his compatriot before being slammed into the wall behind the heretic in the process. Through our wars, we gain faith! He growled victoriously, ripping the whip forward again, this time tearing the anchored soldier's entire leg free at the thigh, as he threw the dismembered limb into the growing path of a shotgun blast, cutting a shielding silhouette through the rain of lethal pellets, one which he slid through as he continued his cavorting movements. And it is through our faith that we attain victory! He declared, reeling back his whip-bearing fist as he reached forward with his free hand, opening it into a claw as the last soldier was suddenly sucked through the air, halting once her throat was between his powerful fingers, gripping her tightly. She was the last guard, and though there was much fear in her, there was also the frenzy of combat, and one-handed, she leveraged up her shotgun and pressed it into his chest, pulling the trigger. Her eyes widened as nothing happened, her weapon clicking but not firing. Jammed! The heresiarch brought his face closer to her,
probably already knew that
and he tightened his grip, his painful smile now only inches from her grimace. And through victory, our chains are broken. He whispered to her through the teeth of his daemon's grin.
Daemon's grin. Now, here's the thing. Is he a demon? Or is he a demon prince of the Emperor, Slanesh, Khorne, Nurgle, and Tzeentch? I think all considered, they would have as much problem with that as the Emperor would. Except for Tzeentch. He would both love and hate it in equal measure.
His hands squeezing tighter and tighter. The blunt woman dropped her weapon, gasping and choking, scrabbling with armored fingers against his hand. But she could not touch him. Try as she might, the soldier's clawing and pounding fists met with a barrier of solid air with each attempt. Unable to do anything but glare into the creature's eyes, it smiled into her final moments.
Yeah, I'm with Hobbit in the chat on this one. This guy makes Palpatine look palatable. Or palpable. Like, legitimately, this is someone who, one, yeah, people in the chat are pointing out it's a parody of the Sith Code, but also, he has faith in the God Emperor. And despite the fact that that is probably the most fucked up thing I can imagine hearing, I almost wish this wasn't a fan creation. Unless it's not, and the Tenfold Path is actually thinking 40k, in which case, I was unaware of this, and it's terrifying.
When she died at last, her eyes rolling up as death throes rattled through her, the man-shaped monster let her drop to the floor in a heap. It shuddered in pleasurable exultation, standing amidst the bodies it had created, taking a moment to savor its freedom, tasting the rewards of his faith, crossing one hand over his heart, splaying out his 5 digits as he did. Chaos abides no chains. Chaos only reigns.
And fan in the chat confirmed this guy is canon. Lovely. Yeah, so I would be very okay with never reading him fight again because and fan is confirming he is canon to this story, not to 40k, it's his creation. But the episode is canon to this story. Okay. That said, he didn't say anything about the Tenfold Path. It makes sense with how some of the narrative goes with the Dark King. I think someone mentioned this came out before the Dark King narrative did, so maybe that won't be a thing. Either way, though, I was thinking, this is pretty short. I can watch another. But right now, I need to go and probably throw up. It's like I could do the absorbing thing. It's just horrific. But then like the bone whip creation got me, man. That was just... oh. Like legitimately, why was that a... I don't... That's fucked up, man. All the same. I'm going to figure out what the hell is going on with the screen next time. I'll figure it out, or maybe just get a different lens or something. I don't know. Either way, I'll see you guys in the next one. And just, I just need a trash can quickly. Yeah, I was told to get a bucket, and they were right. See you guys then. Adios.